This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so good morning. Yesterday we seen all the manual activities that have to be done by the release engineer. So in automation way, you call the deployment engineers or release engineers as a DevOps engineer. But in a manual way, you call them as a release engineer basically. Okay, so developers basically use that publish mechanism uh, and generate the artifacts, right? All that HTML, JavaScript, jQuery, or all their code into DLL, etc. And that will be given to your release engineers or deployment engineers, whoever is responsible to take that artifacts and deploy to the different servers. Okay, and if you see, a lot of documentation will also be created by the developers, saying that how to deploy the code to the servers. They will say that, hey, take this code and copy this code to this virtual directory and make these changes to this website, use this app call. Okay, and after that give these permissions to this folder. So likewise, right, let us say they might be having some upload functionality and download functionality, and application may need some permissions to some folder, read, write, access. All these things will be mentioned in a release documentation, and that will be given to the release engineers or deployment engineers as well. And obviously there will be a call between development team and deployment team as well. Okay, so this is what happens usually in any company if they are following a manual way of doing deployments basically. So, and you also need people from network team. You also need people from server team. You also need people from project management. Like this, you will have all the people on the release calls basically. Release calls means nothing but where you take this release documentation and start deploying code to different servers. Okay, if you are already working in this environment, this process is pretty much familiar to you. Lohit, right? Are you aware of this process or?
Yeah, usually we do the same process.
Yeah, exactly right. So it depends. I mean, but more or less in any company, it will be same only. End of the day, it's all about development team explaining deployment team or release team about what to be done on the servers. Okay, and obviously to whatever the servers deployment team or the development team going to deploy, the network permissions to be changed, right? You should be able to do the remote desktop. You need some administration access because you are going to deploy the code to the IIS, and you are going to change the folder names, folder permissions, etc. You need administration access as well. So that server administrators will provide that access to the deployment engineers. So these are all the things that happen. Now we're going to automate all these things basically. Okay. Let me start my so let me log into DevOps portal, dev.azure.com. Sign in. Use this. I regularly clear my cache. That's why sometimes it asks me, to give the credentials. Okay. So let me check if I got my credits here. Okay. I have not checked it. I didn't get the time. Organization settings and building. It takes some time. It is loading basically. Let me check this. It is still showing zero basically. At least these are the paid jobs. Okay, I should be able to do it. Let me go to the organization, online reservation system, pipelines. Let me give it a try. Let me run this pipeline once. Okay. Let's open. Okay, it's not done. Okay, let me go back to my older organization. So I don't want to waste time here. So online travel, all we need is CI/CD pipelines, right? It doesn't matter where you are creating. Okay, so we have our online reservation system here. Okay, and then we already have the pipeline, right? What's this pipeline? Sorry, which? What is the name we given last time? Which? What's the name we given, Lohit? You remember? Online reservation systems or online trips?
Online reservation system only.
Okay. Where is my pipeline? That's what I am checking here. My pipeline. Let me check. Has it been deleted? I'm not sure what happened to my pipeline. My pipeline should have been here, right? Let me check. Okay. This is strange, man. Uh,
Can you check with other project also? I mean, the previous one.
yeah, I'm just checking. Yeah, let me check my older one. Yeah, I have my pipeline here. Oh, sorry. This okay. This is okay. Yeah, I have my pipeline here. I did not change it. So this is my older one. Okay. In this online travel organization, this is the one we created. Somebody deleted. Nobody has access. Let me check it. Uh, Teams. Yeah, nobody has access to this one except me. Okay. Anyways, let's go ahead and create a pipeline. I will see. I will go and check some audit logs, etc. If something might have happened. Okay.
Okay, Purva.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead and create a pipeline because I need the artifacts, right? From CI pipeline, I have to create the artifacts. Okay. So this classifier. Okay. Continue. ASP.NET. I'm not now explaining. I'm quickly creating it. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Now our focus is on the CD pipeline, right? I'm just disabling these test assemblies. I'm not adding sonar cube, etc. because now we are looking into the what is this? Now we are looking into the CD pipeline basically. So all I need is an artifact basically. I want to quickly generate the artifacts. Okay, and the default configurations will work. Okay, let me go and save it, and then queue. I'll make it as a 2019. Okay. So you can see the artifact here in the, so if we click here, right, this is what it is showing, one artifact produced here. Okay, click this. So this is a folder name, right? If you remember, this will contain your project code after the build. Basically, you see all the HTML, DLL, and everything, right? That is there in your project zip file. These are all zip files. Your journeys web. This is my project name .zip, and these are for the rest of the things are for the your Azure DevOps, basically, because we're going to use this content or the artifacts to deploy to our web servers, basically. Okay, and it shows you someone utilized it or not, etc. Published. So I have my artifacts. Okay, now we are getting into the release pipeline. Go to the release pipeline. I'm going to take those artifacts and deploy to my servers. Okay, let us think that first basically deploy to the QA environment, right? Dev or QA environment, isn't it? Right? Most of the people,
Yes.
for developers, they do maintain their own environment. I mean, they don't need any DevOps engineers or release engineers help, right, to deploy the code, because they will do it every day regularly. Okay, if they start taking the help of other people, they cannot be productive, basically, because of multiple interactions with other people. Most of the times, to any servers in the development environment will be accessed by developers with complete permissions, with administration access as well, because they need to experiment, right? Without they do experimentation, they cannot give it to the QA and UAT and production environments, isn't it? Right? So, so now what we will do, think that developers done all work in their environments. We will start deploying into the QA environment, UAT, and production, or QA and production, more than one environment. Okay. Now let's click on this new pipeline. For CD, we call it as a release pipeline. Okay. The moment you click on that new pipeline, right, this is how it looks like. The way you have a templates for a CI pipeline using Azure pipelines, uh, in the similar way you have the templates for a release pipeline as well, which is for the continuous deployment or continuous delivery. Okay, so there are a number of templates as well. Let us say if you want to deploy your application to Azure App Service, which we're going to explain later, you will use this template. And if you want to deploy Java application to Azure App Service, use this. And Node.js, PHP, Python, and then Kubernetes, etc. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to deploy my application, my .NET application into App Service. I'm going to deploy my application into one of the servers or more than one server in my QA environment. Okay. uh, See, environment doesn't matter technically. That is only for the logical separation, saying that hey, these servers are meant for QA, these servers are meant for UAT, these servers are meant for development. But all the permissions and configurations should be same across all the environments, right? That should not be different, except some access permissions. Who should be able to log into the server? Who should be the administrator? Except those things, anything related to the application should be same. Okay. So now my task is to deploy my code into IIS, because mine is a web application. Okay. So you can go and search for IIS deployment. IIS. The moment you search for IIS, you have a number of things: IIS website and SQL database deployment. So IIS website deployment is correct, but I'm not going to deploy any SQL database along with IIS. Okay. So look for a simple IIS web. I mean, simple, not simple. I would say uh, website deployment alone. So the last one is IIS website deployment. This, using this task, we can deploy website alone to the IIS. You can see here, deploy an ASP.NET or ASP.NET Core web application to an IIS website or a physical or virtual machine. It can be physical, it can be virtual. Okay. Now you have to give the name to the stage name. Stage is nothing but your environment basically. If it is if this pipeline is for the QA, then give it as a QA. If it is dev, give it dev. If it is production, give production. So I'll give it as a QA. Okay, and I'm the owner for this. Okay, that's it. Just move it. The moment I change the name, it is changed here. What you see here is the first one is artifacts, the second one is a stages box, and you can see it visually as well, right? See, for any stage, be it a QA, UAT production, what is the prerequisite is you need to have the artifacts, right? Without artifacts, you cannot move ahead. So first select the artifacts here from the artifacts section here. Click on add. Then you can select your artifacts from multiple areas. I think you have to go on mute. Okay. So you can select the artifacts. The source of the artifacts can be anything. So one is your build pipeline. So in our case, our source for the artifacts is our build pipeline because we did the build, we executed the build pipeline, and we got the artifacts. In our case, build is the source. Okay, and Azure Repos. In many some cases, people may keep their artifacts in the Azure Repos Git as well. Okay, that's the reason Azure DevOps is giving this option as well. Or you may have your artifacts in the GitHub as well. See, you may say that why people keep it in some. See, your SCM is not meant for maintaining artifacts. It is meant for maintaining only the code. But you can't help it. In some cases, people keep it there as well. That's the reason they're given these options. TFEC, this is a older version of your Azure. Azure Repos, right? So if you are still using a TFEC for the source control management, go ahead and use it. And Azure Artifacts, you can maintain artifacts in the Azure Artifacts. It is similar to your Nugget or Maven, etc. Or GitHub release pipeline. That means you can have the CI in the GitHub, means which is your public or private, and it once you have the CI in GitHub, the code will be built there, and artifacts can be linked from that GitHub pipeline to our Azure DevOps release pipeline. What does it mean? See, Azure DevOps is flexible here. That means you don't need to use all these features if you want to use a release pipeline in Azure DevOps. What Azure DevOps say? Hey, you can maintain your code in Git, public Git, or you can maintain code in a Bitbucket. You can maintain code anywhere, and it will also tell you, yeah, you can maintain code anywhere, but you can use my build pipeline because I will be able to connect your code management. Similarly, in the release pipeline as well, it will say, hey, you might be using Jenkins in your organization. I know it is very difficult to migrate from Jenkins to Azure DevOps because you've been using for years and years. What it will tell you, basically management makes a plan. Hey, in the first phase, let's start using Azure DevOps for the CD pipeline only. Let's continue to use the Jenkins as a build pipeline. So in that kind of scenario, what happens? Your Jenkins tool will continue to be used as a CI pipeline tool. So they will generate the artifacts, and we use Azure DevOps to consume from that Jenkins CI pipeline. Okay. That's the reason you see Jenkins option here as well. Okay. So for us, we are going to use our build pipeline as a source. So our project is online reservation system, and you have to select the build pipeline name. This is our build pipeline name. Okay, and which, see, you will build your application n number of times in a day or in a week, right? So either you can specify the latest version, you can tell this pipeline to take the latest version always, or you can give a specific version name as well. Most of the times it is latest. Okay, that's it. Click on add. Before I move to the other section, any doubts, look it there in selecting the artifacts.
So far, good, Purna.
Okay, so it's very flexible. Though you are using Azure DevOps for the deployment, still you can use other tools for the CI pipeline. Okay. Now I got the artifacts ready. Now I need to configure my stage. So my first stage is the QA environment basically. So by default I will have few tasks because I used template. So let's click on this task, view stage tasks. What I say, let's go quick view, right? The first section is, this is a parent section, QA. It contains the name and what is the configuration, what you are going to do in this environment. I'm going to deploy my application to IIS, right? IIS websites. That's the reason we have the IIS website. Yes, this is one we are going to work on. If you go with the web application, virtual directory, IIS application pool, etc., you cannot do all the things. IIS website is root, right? Under that, you have all these different things. You are not going to do anything with the website, then go ahead and select the application, etc. But let's take the parent always. So I will also show you these things as well, application pool as well. Okay, IIS website. And what is the action? So you are going to create a website or update an existing websites. Okay, that's the option you are having basically, create or update. And in future you you may not update or create the website. Probably you may want to start or stop the websites basically. For that reason they given start and stop. But for our current demo, let's use a create or update. And what is the website name? Okay, see, you remember by default you will have a website name called default website. Okay, I'll go with this one later. You can go ahead and change it to whatever is the website you create, not you basically, whatever is being created by the server administrators. See, you can also create from here, but in real world what happens, uh, uh, website creation and everything will be taken care by the administrators, I mean server administrators basically. The reason, it's not as simple as going to IIS and right click and create a website, right? They have to procure a domain, they have to purchase a SSL certificate, and network administrators have to give the public IP addresses, etc. So three different teams are working on creating a websites. That's the reason most of the times you will not be creating a website via DevOps pipeline, CD pipeline. Website will always be exist there. You will go and refer to that website here. Got it? Make sense, Lohit?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes, for now.
yeah. So that's the real world scenario. Okay. And this is, bindings. You just leave it as it because it is port 80 only. If you want to change it, you can. This bangle is always for it will give you option to edit basically. If you want to edit, you can go and click on edit and then add the bindings. You remember we in the IIS as well we have the same edit bindings section basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Since I don't have any domain available which is purchased, I'm not entering anything here. Okay.
Puna, one question here.
Your voice is very low.
Is it fine now?
Yeah, this is now good. Yeah.
In some instances, we might not have the application on the root node. Like we might have it under some folder under the default website, right?
Hmm.
So how do we configure that here? Do we just need to give the complete URL here in that bindings? Like for
No,
example,
no,
it
no,
is running default port, and
no.
there was some folder called. Yeah.
No, I did not get your question. Again, you are going low, Ravi.
Okay, is it better now?
I mean, now it is better. Continue. Yeah.
Okay. Assume you have an IIS server, and in that we
Right.
have default website which is hosted on 80 port by default.
Let me go there. Okay.
Yeah,
While you
sure.
are inet, you can say inet. It will come
Yeah,
easily. Inet ngr. Okay. Yeah. So think that I am here on the default
yeah.
website or under your
Under
journeys, my
default web.
website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever is
Anything.
the
Yeah.
node you can select.
Right.
Explain that.
Okay.
I will create a new folder here.
Okay.
Uh,
Basically, application. You will create an application, not the folder,
no, no, no. I
basically.
will create a folder.
Okay. So
So
for what reason you cannot create a folder here? You have to go and create a folder in your here basically
in the path
directly from
actually,
the
in the physical path.
yeah wherever you want to
Yeah.
keep it, right? You will create,
Yes.
right? Let's say that
Yeah, create some folder named maybe version 1.0 or something of your choice. Yeah,
folder one. Okay.
yes. Um,
Hmm.
okay, now go to IIS. Just
Let me
refresh it here.
refresh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Under folder one, I will create an application.
Okay.
I will
But
click
why
on
do you
folder one and
see?
click on folder one and right click on application here.
Okay. See,
Add application.
why do you want to do that? You can add an application.
Yeah.
The process will be same wherever you are creating. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, the process would be
Uh,
same, but by adding an application, the URL path would be the default port 8.80 and then folder
no,
one slash application name.
no, one second, one second. Let me go and select it. Right, I can select even our current, I mean,
Yeah,
website
we
as
can select the
well. Okay.
existing path also.
Yeah. Okay. So I have the content here. No, no, you want to keep it here, right? Under
No,
this,
no
you
need.
want
You
to.
you can add your journeys here.
Okay. So I selected.
Yeah, just add it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
click on
Done.
OK.
Okay.
Okay. Now
Hmm.
my question is, how do I configure the deployment on this path?
So what you are saying is, how do I? Oh, we haven't come to this place. This we are at the. Okay, you are going to the next level basically. Okay, we are
Okay.
only here at the root level.
Okay. What I thought was in the add bindings you gave the URL, right?
Hmm.
So
No,
I
here
thought
you will only give the site name. Whatever you see in the root, right? Okay, you will give
okay,
it either yeah, whatever you see in the root that will be given there. Be it a default
okay,
website, be it your customized one. What is purchased by your uh, server administrators. Okay, we have to
okay,
go to the next level. We are not at that. I'm just showing how it looks like at root basically.
okay, fine.
Okay, and then we have many tasks here, you see here. Okay, we have many tasks. Now now you specified some preliminary information saying that to this pipeline you are saying that, hey, I'm going to create and update existing, create a new site or update an existing site basically. So right now I'm not changing anything. Okay, and then next one is, okay, now you have the artifacts, and you mentioned you are going to do IIS deployment. Now you need to do tasks that are related to taking the code from the pipelines and deploying it to the IIS website. Okay, now the prerequisite here is that you need to have the servers, right? You need to have the servers in your QA environment, and those servers should be connected to your release pipeline. Here I'll give this release pipeline name as your terminals. Okay, just so you need to have a servers in the QA environment, and those servers have to be connected to Azure release pipeline for deploying code to them basically. Okay, so here we are going to use a concept called deployment groups basically. Okay, so this is the IAS deployment. Okay, so I'm going to use a concept called deployment group here. Right now this deployment group is empty. So what is this deployment group? Deployment group is a group of servers to which your release pipeline going to deploy the code, yeah, or artifacts basically. Okay, so it can be your QA environment, it can be your UAT, it can be your production. This is a logical separation of your servers basically. Okay, however you see in your regular real-time work, I mean in any project basically. And what is the other advantage of this deployment group? Okay, let me go ahead and take an example. So if you don't have a deployment group, before the existence of deployment group option, right? Okay, you think that you have a number of servers, right? Or I would say server 1, okay, server 2, server 3, right? The name can be anything, right? And this is basically uh, your QA environment, right? Or it can be dev as well. I'm just using this term called QA. Okay. Now your release pipeline could be in your Jenkins, or it could be in your Azure DevOps. Right now, think that we are using our Azure release pipeline, right? You can call it as a CD pipeline, I mean continuous deployment or delivery, or Azure release pipeline. Now it needs to have access to this one, right? To this server, and then to this server, and then to this server, right? And how, I mean, for this, what people do, you have to do a number of things, right? Okay, let us think. The minimum things will be, ports should be open between your release pipeline server or release pipeline. We are using a PaaS, right? Azure DevOps is a PaaS, so we do not have a server concept. You simply say Azure release pipeline. If we are using Jenkins, then you have to give the Jenkins server name. So you need to open the ports and the firewall settings to be updated to allow traffic from this to allow traffic from the CI pipeline or CD pipeline, right? And then your application definitely be accessible over the port 80 and 443, right? 443 means SSL, and port 80 means non-SSL, right? HTTP 80 and HTTP 43, HTTP 80 and 443. Okay, so, and obviously you need a remote desktop as well, because to do anything, all these things have to done, right? At least a minimum these three things should be there, right? For someone to deploy code, be it automated or be it manual. So in this case, to my release pipeline, I need to uh, I need to do execute all these different tasks on the servers basically, right? And imagine you have 10 servers in your QA environment, and all the 10 servers you need to go and execute all these things. So you need to work with your network people, you need to work with your server administrators if it is a physical environment. If it is a virtual environment like Azure Cloud or AWS Cloud, etc., you need to ask your Azure Cloud administrator to go and do all these things for you basically, right? And obviously they need to install some piece of software on the servers as well, which you call it as a deployment agent. So that's how it works, right? Now with this deployment group, all these things can be done by the DevOps administrator itself without the help of these people, and it became very simple. So another advantage is, because you are using deployment group job, you have the visual representation of your servers as well, in which environment how many servers are there, etc. Okay, makes sense. What is the advantage of deployment group job against not having the deployment group?
Um, Puna, okay. One thing. So this will be helpful to make multiple deployments in parallel for multiple servers, right?
Yeah, we'll go concept by concept, Ravi.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll touch upon all those things. Just be a little patient, basically, because it's like a jumping, basically. Okay, now let's go and create a deployment group, basically, in which I will go and mention all the server 1, 2, 3 are my QA servers or web servers, basically. Okay. Uh, Now I don't have anything here, so I need to create a deployment group job. So I can do it from here, basically under pipelines. You have the deployment. Let me open it in another tab. So we are basically doing a prerequisites. Okay, so you will come here and I'll go and create a deployment group here. Okay, click on a deployment group, and I'm I'm creating this deployment group for my QA environment. So I'll give it as a QA. So it will contain all these servers in QA environment. It's a logical separation as well. You don't need to maintain any Excel sheet. The moment you start using these things, everything will be here. Okay, click on create. So your target server could be Windows, it could be Linux as well, right? So let us say it is Windows because we are using .NET application. Okay, and it created a deployment pool as well, online reservation system QA, because this is it. I mean, project name I can clear my deployment group name basically. Okay, and I need to execute this script. This is a PowerShell script. Right now, you will not understand because you don't know PowerShell. PowerShell basically after CD pipeline, we will get into PowerShell. Once you learn that PowerShell, you will be able to write these kind of scripts as well, and you will understand this as well. Okay, all this script is going to do is uh, making those firewall changes and creating a communication between this release pipeline and the server in your QA environment. Okay, so all we have to do is take the script, and obviously you need a user ID password, right? We are going to use a personal access token, PAT. In our CI pipeline as well, we used PAT to integrate SonarQube with Azure pipeline, right? Here also we will do the same thing. Click on use personal access token in the script for authentication. The moment I clicked it, you will see some personal access token added here somewhere here. Okay, now, but I need to have a server, right? Of course I have the script ready, but I need to have the server. Okay, so we'll go and create a virtual machine now. Okay, guys, you see here, this script contains everything. You see in which organization this deployment group is there. You see https dev.azure.com online travel, and the project name is online reservation system. Okay, and it is a part of a QA. Okay, and it is going to create an agent on the server. All those things will be here. Okay, okay, first let's have a server. We don't have a server at all. Okay, for that, let me log into portal.azure.com, which is our cloud administration portal for Azure. Okay, so let's create a resource. Either you can go and search for virtual machine. Okay, I already given a tour of this one, right, in the initial class. Okay, or I mean, you can directly click on create a resource. So I always prefer go and search for it, virtual machine. Click virtual machines. You will come here. You need to create a new one. Click on create a virtual machine. So you have a number of tabs here. We will have to go through all these different tabs. Okay, for server creation and setup basically. Okay, I have my subscription, that is pay as you go, because I'll pay for what I'm using. I'm not using free. Okay, and the next one is a resource group. I don't have any resource group. I need to create a new. Let me create it and I'll tell you. Okay, I give it as a QA RG. RG is nothing but resource group. You can give any name. So what is this resource group? Okay, resource group doesn't have any significance other than logical separation. The way, so in our Excel sheet, we basically maintain like this, right? For QA environment, we have server 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, and we will also, I mean, if it is a project manager or some server administrator, they will also have some other columns, how much we are paying for this server, etc. Right? Billing related information as well, they maintain in their own Excel sheets. Okay, so for all those things, we are creating a resource group here. So resource group is nothing but a simple folder name or container name or a logical separation of your environments. Okay, in future, whatever the servers I'm going to create for a QA, I'll use QA resource group. So I'm logically separating. So how this is helpful? It is helpful in the building and building exercise basically. So you can create this resource group at your environment level or at client, I mean, or organization unit level as well. Let us say in your company, you have a n number of verticals. Okay, one vertical could be telecom, one other vertical could be healthcare, etc. In that case, you can go ahead and create a vertical name for the resource group. Use a vertical name for the resource group. But if you are using see, this is a hierarchy. You have a subscription, you have a resource groups. Okay, each vertical may have a different subscription. So if that is the case, let us say this is a subscription for my telecom vertical or telecom organization unit in my company. Then I use a subscription as a telecom. Okay, and under that I will go and create a resource groups. Then probably I can create a resource group based for application as well. Okay, all the resources that are related to online reservation system should be part of this resource group. Like that, it's just a logical separation. So that's the reason you did not see any config. It's just for building and logical separation purposes. Okay. Now give the virtual machine name. I'll say uh, QA. Let's say web server QA. I'll give this name. Okay. I would, or else I would say web server one QA. You can give any name. Okay. Or you can say front end server one as well, where you deploy only your HTML content or the website content. Basically, APIs you may deploy to different servers. Okay. Now region, you can select any region. It is based on your basically we will select the region which is nearest to the end users. Okay. If your application is mostly used by US people on the east side, then go ahead and select the region as east. If your users are from yeah, so if users of your application in this server are from central US mostly, then select central US. Okay, there are many other best practices as well, but we have to select at least one region here. Okay, so I select anything, and then availability options. This is related to your let me make it minimized. Okay. So this is related to your redundancy. Okay, no infrastructure redundancy required. Okay, and availability zone. So availability zones is equivalent to your what is say disaster recovery kind of stuff basically. So what is availability zone? Physically separate your resources within an Azure region. Availability set automatically distribute your VM across multiple fault domains. Okay, first understand what is this availability, guys. Now this is not related to DevOps. Okay, this is related to cloud administration because the concept has come. I'm explaining you. Okay, so basically what happens, you created your server in the US East region. Just imagine that this US East region data center is in some location, okay, in the east of US, and there you have some earthquake. The data center has destroyed or has collapsed or power has gone. Something might have happened. Then what happens? Though it is a cloud, since the data center of that cloud is not working, obviously your virtual machine will not work. Your virtual machine is not working, that means your applications will be down, right? Am I right?
Yeah, yes,
Makes sense.
yes.
So if your systems are mission critical, right, then you have to select the availability options, availability zone. If you select availability zone, right, it will ask you, hey, in how many zones you want to replicate this virtual machine. Okay, if you are having machine critical, you say, hey, deploy this, replicate this virtual machine in two availability zones or one availability zone, etc. But what happens, the number of availability zones you take, the more the availability zone utilization, the more your expenses as well. Let us say right now, if I don't have availability zone option, that means no infrastructure redundancy required. That means I will be paying only for one virtual machine, right? If I take availability zone and I mention two availability zones, means my virtual machine will be replicated to two availability zones. I means two other locations physically, if I have to say. Then what happens, I need to pay for three virtual machines, right? Because one is your primary, the other one is secondary, which is not visible to end users or which is not visible to you as well. It all happens in the back end. So that means when something happens into your US East region because of tornadoes or earthquakes, etc., your virtual machine still be made available because that virtual machine is still available in the other availability zone basically. Okay, so for the timing I'm not selecting because I'm paying for paying for what I'm using, right? But that is the concept. It is transfer, it is, it is abstracted from the administrator. You don't need to do anything, you just need to select this option. Microsoft will take care of it. Okay. Now, what is the server version I want to take? I want to use Windows Server 2019 generation 1, 2, etc. It doesn't matter. Okay, because I'm giving a demo. Okay, if you want to see all the images, go and see, select an image, uh, and go and select whichever is the operating system you want to uh, have it on your server basically. Okay, let me close this, come back here, and the spot instance, these are very, what do you say, these are not the reserved instances. So spot instances, basically we use it for some kind of on-demand requirement of some virtual. Let us say in some cases you want to execute some POC and want to use it only for 1 or 2 days or a couple of hours, then we will go for spot instances. That means this is a concept, guys. Basically all these virtual machines are on a physical server, right? So based on the availability of the memory, CPU, etc., and a physical server, these spot instances will be created, and these are cheap basically because this is not reserved for you. Uh, Once you create a spot instance, once you delete it, it will not be having any data in that one basically. It is very cheap. Mostly it is for the POC purposes, etc., not for the actual deployments. So I'm not saying Azure Spot instance. What is the size of my VM? How much GB I need? How many CPUs I require? Okay, guys, if I'm using .NET, right, I minimum need 8 GB RAM because Visual Studio itself takes a lot amount of memory, and your operating system also need at least 1 to 2 GB of memory, right? So I need a
But
minimum 8 GB.
Purna, one question.
Mhm.
So on this virtual machine, we will only deploy the code, but we won't install Visual Studio or any other components, right?
No, on any server, be it Java, .NET, be it Python, anything, right? You should
Okay.
not have any IDEs, any programming language. Uh, you
Yeah.
should not have the IDE.
So we won't have the IDE. So why do we need more memory?
Your framework is running, right? IDE is just a portal, right? I would say.
Okay.
Say, let us
Yeah.
say you are using, you are doing some configurations. If you don't have this portal, what happens? You need to do everything from the command prompt, right? Similarly, if you don't have IDE, where do you write the code? Then you have to write code in a notepad where you don't have IntelliSense, right? Do you remember all the class names and the commands and everything? Nobody can remember, right? You will have a lakhs and lakhs of
Yeah.
classes and related to coding. IDEs are created just for improving the productivity of the developer. If there is no IDE, developers will die. They cannot even write 10 lines of code in a day. Can you write a code in Notepad? No, right? So IDE is simply
Yeah,
connected
we cannot.
to your background framework where the .NET is installed. It is just a UI.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't have any significance other than that. For applications to run, IDE is not important. Framework is important. If you are running Java application, you need to have the Java runtime. You need to install it, and then you need to have the Apache Tomcat as a web server, not the IntelliJ or Eclipse. Right? That is for the developers. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go and select the size. So see, for me, price is also important, right? So there are a lot of things like IWOPs, etc. So we'll explain while this is loading. Yeah, this is loaded. Let me sort by size, cost. Uh, of course, I need to look for 8 GB RAM. Okay, uh, two CPU and for me RAM is important. Okay, and okay, temporary storage there. I'm just need to pay 4796 basically. Okay, and see you see the category here. B2. These are the categories: B2 MS, DS, and B2. Some will start with B, some will start with D basically. Okay, here also you see D series, B series. That's what you see. E series. Okay, each and every series is having a you know purpose. Basically you can see the purpose here. If it is a D series, uh, it is for general purpose needs, means simple web applications, etc. You can deploy them. Okay. And B series, you can see, ideal for workflows that do not need a continuous full CPU performance, means again this could be for your dev environments or QA environment, because based on the series your cost of server will be increased basically. Okay. And if you see some of these things, like let us say if you are using the F series, up to 2x performance boost for vector processing workloads. This is basically for some gamings basically. If you are running some any games or any data science related, you can go with this kind of one. Okay. And you see H series, high performance compute virtual machines. That means compute is nothing but your CPU basically. Okay. High performance, that means on this server you might be running some applications. It could be your web applications, it could be some jobs, it could be anything. If your application or jobs are requiring high power CPUs to process the data, then you need to select with this one. If you select other series, right, what happens? Uh, if in this server you are able to complete your job execution in 2 hours, just imagine in the other series it may take 10 days as well. So the performance, it all depends on the performance, how much performance you need basically. Okay. So you can go and read the, I mean these are very self-explanatory. So based on the need of your application, you need to select appropriate server category. Okay. So for me, my need is to run a simple or web application where I don't have any traffic. Probably I am only using, right, I don't need any traffic basically. High network bandwidth I don't need, etc. That's the reason I went ahead and concentrated only on the 8 GB RAM and two virtual CPUs. And it is costing me 4,796 rupees per month basically. Okay. If you see some other servers, you can see 1 lakh as well. Right now it is showing only till D8s basically, general purpose servers. If I go to any H series, okay, in the H series, you see H series you have different H8 promo, H8M promo, H8, etc. You can see now high performance compute as a description. Okay. See the number of RAM CPUs, eight CPUs, and RAM is 56 GB, 112 GB, 56 GB, 112 GB. And IOPS also you see 32 multiplied by 5000. I talk about IOPS what it is. Temporary storage I will get it 100,000 GB. And you see here the last one is 1 lakh 23 rupees, 1 lakh 23,000 rupees per month. See, based on the size of your server and category of the server, your cost will change. Okay. Only thing that I did not talk is IOPS. What is IOPS? Input output performance basically. IOPS basically dictate your performance of your server. So let us say this is, think of this as my server, right? Okay. If I go and so maybe I'm doing some data processing. It's all about how fast you can read and write to your disk. This is a C drive, right? A CRD drive. Basically, it is on a disk, right? How fast you can read and write into this disk. Basically. That is nothing but IOPS. Okay. Let us say you are having 1 million records to be processed. Means 1 million records to be written to your disk and to be read as well. In those cases, if you are having a less number of IOPS, right, 320 IOPS means only 320 read writes per second basically. If you are having 1 million files or 1 million records, I'm just giving an example, then the processing of your jobs takes days and days. So the more the IOPS, the more the uh, cost of your server as well. Your RAM IOPS will make a huge difference in terms of the cost, and then RAM and CPU will make a difference. The storage will be very minute. Okay. This is very important for the Azure cloud administrators when they're creating a server. If they simply go ahead and create a server in H series, that's it. Your organization will be spending lakhs of rupees per month. Okay. So the administrator have to question, hey, okay, what type of application you want to deploy or you want to maintain in the server. So based on those needs, the cloud administrator need to take a decision. Of course, there will be architect, etc. You need to take a decision basically. Not you, the cloud administrator. But since I'm explaining DevOps, you are learning this one as well. Make sense, guys? About how you choose a service for a particular workload. You can call it as a workload, you can call it as an application, you can call it as a job, anything. Workload is a generic name. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I'm going with 8 GB RAM, B2MS. This is a general purpose. Of course, the performance will be very less. The reason, how it looks like, you will see. If I open some folder, or if I open some browser, right, it will be slower than my desktop basically. Okay. So I selected this, and then you need to give some user ID password to connect to website. So I need to give a password. I have to give more characters. Should be fine. Okay, let me confirm. Okay. So it's all from portal, right? Everything is available here. What ports you want to allow? I want to allow at least RDP to remote desktop and 80 and 443. Okay. So it will give an option. If you're already having some existing Windows Server licenses, you can use them. But I don't have anything, so that's not, I'm not checking this. Okay. The next step is disks. Click on next disk. So in the disk, it will give an option to take SSD or HDD. So SSD obviously high performance, HDD is low performance. So let us say in my laptop, right, I have a SSD for my C drive and HDD for my D drive basically, because I want my laptop will be more performance basically, having more performance. But I'm not taking SSD because it is expensive. Uh, I'll keep it percentage. That's okay. Okay. It will, by default, it will be encrypted basically. Encryption at rest with a primary platform main HTTP. Encryption at rest means your data on your disk. Okay. I'm not going to add any additional disk. If you want any additional disk, you have to go and use this option, create and attach a new disk. So I'm not going to use any additional disk. Okay. You can try with your free account. Okay. And there is an option called advanced use managed disk and ephemeral OMS basically. We'll explain it tomorrow. I'm not using it. Okay. So just say networking, next tab. Okay. So this is all about creating virtual networks and subnets and giving IP addresses, etc. So in your real time, if it is a physical data center, your network guys will be creating a VLAN, right? You might have heard of the term called VLAN, virtual LAN or LAN. That is equivalent to your virtual network. Okay, and then subnet. Inside that LAN, you will have different gateways. Okay, different boundaries as well. That you call it a subnet. This is all about networking concepts. So you can create a name, new name, or you can take the default name. Basically, it will take the resource group name hyphen VNet, virtual net, and you have to give the IP address ranges, be it a 10.0.0.0 or 10.2.10. Whatever the series. This is basically defined by your network administrators. Okay. So basically, how network administrators work, they work. You can go on mute, guys. So basically, network administrators define a IP address range for each organization unit, or for each application, or for each type of application, web servers, or front end servers, or back end servers, like that. Okay. So /24 /16 slash, they are the networking concepts. I will explain it tomorrow, that one as well. but you need to select these things or you have to create a new one. Okay, you can go with a default one. It is also providing some public IP address as well. Okay, I'll leave these things as it. Okay, I already allowed these ports. It is carry forwarded here from the previous step. Okay, I'm not going to add any load balancer here. If you select this load balancer, then it will create a load balancer, and to that load balancer all these virtual machines will be selected. Hope you know the load balancer concept. In any production application, definitely there will be a load balancer, because if you are using only one server for to maintain your application, something goes wrong, your application will be down. That's the people use a load balancer. To that load balancer, people attach the virtual machine. That means any request that is coming from outside to your application, first it will go to the load balancer. The load balancer will determine which server is having the capacity to run your to cater your request. So that is the responsibility of the load balancer. Okay, I'm not creating that one. Okay, and then management, it's all about monitoring, etc. You can leave it to default. Okay, advanced, okay, you want to run some PowerShell scripts or something, then you can write your on the booting itself. You want to do something, you can write that one here. Okay, tags, this is all about again categorization. You want to tag something, let us say name. So, so if in future if you are creating any server, right? If you want to name that as a web, then you can give as a name web basically. That means when you are searching for some servers, right? You can search by tag as well. Search by tag name equal to web. Then all the servers with the tag web will be displayed. That just for reporting purpose. Okay. And then finally, you have the review of your selection, and then create it. So basics, you give your availability zones, user ID, passwords, and virtual machine type, etc. And then if you want to add additional disk, go and add additional disks. And then networking, in which virtual network it has to be placed, in which subnet it has to be placed, etc. And then IP addresses. Management is all about monitoring. Advanced, if you want to do some scripting work on the server when it is being created. Tax for your review, I mean for reporting purpose. Now you see how much I'm going to pay. Product details, I selected the standard B2MS category. Okay, and I'm going to pay 6 rupees 50 paise per hour here. You can see here. Okay, per hour I'm going to pay that. Okay? And the bottom you see all this is a preview basically, all the options that we selected. Okay. After that I just need to say create, guys. Once I say create, it may take a couple of minutes to get this VM created. After that I can log into my VM using my user ID and password that I given basically. Okay, guys, I'm not going to create it now, because if I create it I have to wait till tomorrow, right? It will cost me basically. I'll just stop it here. Tomorrow, right before I come to the session, with 5 minutes before, I will create a virtual machine like this. After that we will continue with our configurations. Okay. You are on mute.
Yeah, okay, Purna.
Yeah. So you can also go and try creating this virtual machine like this with your subscription. But ensure that once you create it, you delete it immediately. Otherwise, your free credits will quickly gets consumed basically. Okay. But spend some quality of time reading the descriptions, etc. across all these things. So that will make you familiar to the administration as well. Okay. Yeah, that's it from me for today. Uh, Tomorrow we'll continue uh, the release pipeline activities. I'll create 2 servers before I join the session. Okay, I'll use them in our session. Okay, guys. Okay, Lavit. Thank you. We'll catch up tomorrow. Kiran.
Thanks, Purna.